Hi, my name is Gregory Dell, and I'm joined today by attorney Alex Palamara, and we're going to discuss chronic fatigue syndrome and long-term disability insurance claims. And Alex, one of the most common questions when it comes to chronic fatigue syndrome when claimants call us is they tell us that they have this diagnosis and they say, do you think that I'll be able to get approved for long-term disability benefits? And, the question's super common, but the challenge with it is due to the subjective nature of chronic fatigue as a diagnosis. So why, when claimants call you, do they need to understand the the reason that chronic fatigue is subjective? And then because of that, why are disability insurance companies going to challenge it more so than, say, someone who calls up and says, I have a back pain and I have an MRI that shows, a herniated disc or nerve root impingement?
Right. I'm not going to sit here and lie to somebody. It's a tough claim. It really is. And the reason why it's tough, there's just no objective evidence a lot of the times to prove that someone is suffering from chronic fatigue syndrome. A lot of the times the way you diagnose this is by a doctor actually speaking with you, evaluating you, hearing your complaints, hearing how long you've been suffering from those complaints, what your symptoms are, and then they can and maybe they'll do some blood tests and ultimately rule out other possible causes of your complaints of fatigue and finally get to that diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. So it's kind of a diagnosis by ruling out other possible causes. And the insurance companies hate that because it is subjective. You're relying upon someone's complaints. It's almost as subjective as a mental health claim in the sense that there's no blood test to show that you have chronic fatigue syndrome. There's no blood test to show if you have depression, anxiety. And the insurance companies hate these claims for that reason. And lo and behold, they like to deny those claims. So when you file a claim for disability benefits with any insurance company, whether it's a group policy or an individual policy, you need as much proof as you possibly can get, and proof is in the form of medical documentation. So you need to start seeing your doctors as soon as possible to start growing your medical records to show that there is a history of these complaints, a doctor treating it, a doctor diagnosing it, a doctor giving you, some sort of treatment plan to try to beat it and whatnot, so that when you're ready to file this claim, and you probably already are filing or ready to file this claim if you're watching this video, but you need to have as much proof in your medical records to prove the subjective case, the subjective disabling condition.
So Alex, I want to, in this video, give some people some good tips to put them in the best position to get approved if they're dealing with chronic fatigue. And the fact that it's a subjective condition, and we know already that the disability insurance company is going to say, look, we don't doubt your diagnosis, but they always argue diagnosis doesn't equal disability. And they're going to say, we don't doubt that you've been diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and you may have chronic fatigue syndrome. But the issue is that we don't think it rises to the level of disability. So how important is it to get the subjective complaints into the medical records?
It's everything. It literally is everything. You have to have a long history, not a long history, you have to have a history of speaking to your medical provider so that's in those medical records. And a lot of times the thing about medical records, they're not really used to prove to a disability insurance company that someone's disabled. I mean, medical records are really written down by the doctors so when you come back in the next time, they can see where you're at, and so they can document, for your own treatment, but not to prove to a disability insurance company that someone's disabled. So the insurance companies use that tactic as well. It's like, oh, the medical records say this, but it's not enough here to prove that the person can't work a full-time job, 40 hours a week. And there's a lot of other potential pitfalls for this subjective chronic fatigue syndrome, in the sense that a lot of long-term disability insurance policies, what they're seeing nowadays sometimes is there's a 24-month self-reported symptom limitation. So they're kind of getting smarter at how to write their policies to limit these type of claims. But lo and behold, thankfully, there's not many policies yet that have that limitation or limiting language in there. So there's still a way to get benefits until your normal retirement age, until age 65, under this condition, even though the insurance companies hate it.
So the other thing we know about, we've represented hundreds of people with chronic fatigue and helped them to get approved with their benefits. But with chronic fatigue syndrome, the doctors often say that your condition is going to wax and wane and that you're not going to have every single day or every minute where everything is bad. So claimants say, look, there's times I can go to my kid's soccer game, I can go to the grocery store, I can go get gas, I can go to dinner with some friends. can I still live my life and do those things and be approved for long-term disability?
Of course, and you see it all the time that someone will have a good day, and that's one of the pitfalls of these disability insurance claims, because even if you do get on claim, the insurance company's not going to sit by the wayside and say, "Hey, we're just going to pay you for the next 10, 15 years or however old you are until your normal retirement age." A lot of times they do surveillance of these claims. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. A video, they might get you one of those good days when you actually go out to dinner or go to the supermarket and go to Costco or wherever, and you're out for the entire day for 4 or 5 hours. They're going to get a video of you doing all this, and they're going to utilize it to deny your claim, because the picture's worth 1,000 words, the video is worth 1,000,000 words. So you have to be careful. But what we know and what the medical evidence actually suggests, and you can look it up online, they're going to have good and bad days, and most of the time when people actually have good days, they're down for the count the days after. So just because you have a good day on Monday doesn't mean Tuesday or Wednesday you're going to be able to work 8 hours a day for the next 2 days as well. So you have to make sure to be able to create those arguments in case the insurance company denies your claim, or in case they do surveillance, or in case they try to make the argument that, listen, her doctor said that she's reporting such and such on this day, she's able to do this and this on this day, but we know that it comes, not that it comes and goes, but you might feel good, but the next day you might not be able to get out of bed, might not be able to brush your teeth, because people with chronic fatigue syndrome, everyday tasks can be very, tasking to them, So it's, you have to be careful what you put out there, and you have to know what chronic fatigue syndrome is, because the insurance company is going to try to take advantage of you for sure.
And the other thing we know, in light of the fact that most people with chronic fatigue are going to get video surveillance, which for people who don't know what that means the disability insurance company is going to hire a third-party investigator who's going to be tasked with the job to follow you around for at least an 8-hour period for 3, 4, or 5 days, depending upon how long they get the assignment for. And their job is, anytime you're in the public domain, is to get you under videotape coverage and maybe even follow you around or listen to your conversations. They're not going to come in your house. They're not going to tap your phones. They're not going to tap your email. But if you're in the public domain, you should assume you're being watched. That being the case, knowing that it's going to happen, the way that you deal with that, and Alex, you touched on this, is a variety of ways. Number one, you never exaggerate your symptoms. You never tell your doctors that you can't do something that you really can do. If you do that, you're going to have big problems, because they're going to get you on video eventually. The other thing is, you got to be very cautious in how you fill out these claim forms, because the claim forms always ask, how long can you sit? How long can you stand? How long can you walk? Do you drive? How long do you drive for? If you tell them that you don't drive more than 10 minutes at a time, and they get you on tape driving 30 minutes, you're going to have a problem. The best case scenario is just tell them the truth about everything you could do. Because no matter what, with all of those things they're asking, they're not going to relate to a 40-hour work week, 5 days a week, where you have to be relied upon as an employee to be there every day, to attend meetings, to meet conferences, to meet deadlines. You don't have the luxury to be able to say, I can't focus today. I need to take a nap. I can't do my job. I can't meet a new client. Can you reschedule this? If you do that repeatedly, which you probably were or are doing right now, which is why you're considering filing a claim, there's no way that your employer is going to keep you on that job. So the fact that you tell your doctor, yeah, I can drive for a half hour if I have to, yes, I can go to the store, yes, I can do my chores, yes, I can cook for myself, no problem. But if you start trying to second guess yourself because you don't know better and think that if you tell them on the claim form that you can do this, and then that means they're going to translate it to that you can work, you shouldn't do it that way. Be honest and you won't have issues. We'll be able to deal with it when presenting it to the disability insurance company, because it's a lot easier to deal with the honesty than it is to try to come back from explaining yourself as to why you were able to do something that you said you couldn't do. The other thing, Alex, I want you to touch on, because of the subjective nature of chronic fatigue, is the importance of keeping a daily pain journal for maybe 30 days and then sharing that with your doctor. How could that really benefit a claimant with chronic fatigue syndrome?
I mean, again, there's no objective evidence to prove this condition. But if you show your doctor and end up being able to show the insurance company that you have these complaints for this long period of time, or each month, you might show 15, 20 days where you're down for the count, or you can't leave your house, or you can't leave your bed. It's just more evidence, because there's just no objective evidence to prove this. There's no blood test to prove this. There's no MRI to prove that you have this condition. So the more subjective evidence you can provide to your doctor, and it can be documented in your medical records, the better. You know, and the other thing I wanted to touch upon that's actually pretty interesting is that a lot of the cases, and in a lot of the cases I see, you know, is that people that have chronic fatigue syndrome, they also have other conditions, and maybe it's fibromyalgia, and more often than not, they have depression and anxiety. And one of the pitfalls that I see with these chronic fatigue cases is that the insurance companies love to make the argument that the fatigue is caused by the depression and anxiety, and they like to deny claims. If they actually approve your claim, they try to approve the claim as a mental health claim. And what we all know is that in most group disability insurance policies, if not, I would say 99% of them, maybe 99.9% of the group disability insurance policies, they have limiting language for mental health claims of 24 months. So what they like to do is they might approve your claim for the first 24 months, and then they try to deny your claim at that point after the 24-month period where the mental health limiting language kicks in. So it's very important to differentiate what is the cause of your fatigue. Is it depression? Sometimes people with depression can be, lay in bed all day and feel fatigued and be tired. But that's why you need as much support from your medical documentation and doing these pain journals, fatigue journals to show on a regular basis that you're suffering from this, that has nothing to do with your depression. You can take antidepressants, feel better, but your fatigue is something else. So you just need as much subjective information to prove your case. And we need to prove to the insurance company, maybe it's a functional capacity evaluation, or we need to show that your fatigue was there before your depression kicked in. Because sometimes it's the chicken and the egg thing. You don't know which comes first, but if you prove your fatigue came first, then you can prove that it should not be subject to the 24-month mental health limiting language of the policy. So these are definitely difficult claims, but we do have a lot of success at getting people on claim. And if they come to us after their claim has been denied, we have success with their lawsuits as well.
And I think it's super important that you said, and the key word is that the depression or anxiety or any mental cognitive aspects of it are secondary to the underlying physical, which is the chronic fatigue. And if you
fatigue, depression, anxiety come after chronic fatigue more often than not is what I see. My clients suffer from chronic fatigue. They don't know what's going on with their body. They're stuck in bed in the house all day, which leads to depression. But the insurance companies like to say, oh, no, it's depression. But you have to prove that the fatigue came first. And more often than not, I do see that with my clients, that the fatigue actually did come first. So it's not like we're making some, a BS argument here. It's the real deal. And the insurance company should pay for the entire time period. It should not be limited to the 24-month, mental health limiting language of the policy.
Right. So, in summary, it takes very detailed documentation, keeping track of all your complaints, having strong communications with your doctor to make sure that all of those complaints are in your records. Treating with the right medical specialist for your condition as well is going to be extremely important. And also being aware that when you go out in public that you're going to be under video surveillance, and even if you're having a good day, keep in mind that someone could be watching you and using that against you. And unfortunately, if you're going to be on disability insurance, you're always going to have to live with that fear that someone could misrepresent a situation when you're having a good day. So these are, a few of the many tips that we can offer you. And of course, Alex, as you said, we work with claimants to assist them to stay on claim, to get approved initially through an application. And of course, if you've been denied, we handle appeals and lawsuits all the time. Our clients are located all over the country, so no matter where you live, our lawyers are available to assist you. What we'd like to offer you is a free initial consultation where we welcome you to send us a copy of your long-term disability policy. If you've been denied, send us a copy of your denial letter. We will immediately respond to you, set a phone conference, go over all of your questions, and provide you with how we think we can help you. It's something that we'll let you know immediately once we speak, and you can simply click the free consultation link on our website or go ahead and give us a call now, and we're happy to speak with you. The other thing we want to offer you that's very unique is that we have prepared a tremendous amount of information on our website for the purposes of educating claimants like you. And we encourage you to go to our website, search by your disability insurance company, search by your medical condition. If it's chronic fatigue syndrome that's primarily disabling you, you can search by your occupation. And what you're going to find is a lot of cases, articles, cases that we've resolved, reviews about your disability insurance company, questions and answers. There's thousands that our lawyers have answered from people that have situations like you. And while you may not want to be bothered by all of this stuff, we think it's important. We encourage you to look at it because it's going to educate you about this process. And this process is somewhat of a game. You have to know how to play the game to put yourself in the best position to win. And winning here is getting your benefits approved. The more knowledge you have, the better position you're going to be in to get approved. And that's important. We'll certainly work with you. We'll guide you. We'll educate you about this whole process. And we'll do everything we can to get you approved. But we really need you to have more of a knowledge base so that you can start thinking like a disability insurance company. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And should you need us in the future, we look forward to speaking with you.